Veteran Salute is sponsored by the Devon James Injury Lawyers.
Welcome back. This week's veteran did 2 tours of duty in Iraq and another in Africa.
He also found time to serve as a volunteer firefighter. KSN's Mike Mahoney shares his story in tonight's Veteran Salute.
Chris Perry grew up in Amarita, Oklahoma, and joined the Army National Guard at age 17 in 1992 before he completed high school.
Grew up pretty poor and didn't have a whole lot and needed something to go on, and the military was the calling, and that's where I went.
With high school behind him, Chris soon found himself in infantry school with the National Guard while also going to college and becoming a volunteer firefighter in Amarita and Byron, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I did pretty good with the fire and rescue deal. I was the youngest, I think, at the time, and the smallest, so I always got to go into the attics.
Chris was deployed to Iraq for the first time in 2002 and found himself in a very tense and dangerous situation after his unit outran their supplies and was stuck in Taji, a town almost 20 miles north of Baghdad.
I think 1 MRE and 2 bottles of water a day, so we went strictly night ops. We didn't even have enough supply to run anything during the day.
Relief forces got Chris and his team out of Taji, and after returning to the U.S., he moved to Wichita to work at an ethanol plant. But Chris's Army career was far from over, and in 2005 he was sent back to Iraq to provide security for the Special Forces compound. Chris says the second deployment was more dangerous than the first, but just like last time, his teammates were always watching his back.
RPG attacks, random sporadic fire, grenades thrown at us, just random, all the time, everything's random. And then it's just, those guys have got you every day, all day. And it doesn't matter what time of day, you need to talk to somebody, there's somebody to talk to.
Chris returned to the air capital after a year and a half, but the Army National Guard had one last deployment for him. Around 2010, he was sent to Burundi in Africa to help teach the country's soldiers, and this time, security was provided for him.
It was what I would call my vacation tour, because it was stress-free for the most part. I really didn't have to think about security. I didn't have to think about anything other than teaching a class.
Chris would return to the air capital and stay in the U.S. before retiring from the Army in 2015 as a sergeant first class. But not before one last major assignment, training our Army's future snipers from the state of Kansas.
That's the one thing we really tried to push was, if you're going to do it, you got to do it and you got to mean it. Memorization, learning how to get specific details and bring it forth to the table later.
Chris is enjoying his retirement these days in Wichita, and a big reason why is because of all his brothers and sisters at Wichita VFW 3115.
Try to keep the veterans coming in. We try to recruit as many as we can and do as much as we can for the community and the other veterans that we don't ever see.
Here for you, Mike Mahoney, KSN News 3.
On behalf of Devon James Injury Lawyers, we're honored to recognize this week's veteran, Chris Perry, who served our country in the National Guard and then on several Army tours. Thank you so much for your service. We're excited to present you with a check for $500.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Veteran Salute is sponsored by the Devon James Injury Lawyers.